There are all kind of what I would call leaders in the making.
Because it's the details that make you or break you, especially if you're in a leadership position.
You have incredible potential to learn.
Success is not a destination, it's a direction.
If you want to be a success, you've got to learn how to lead other people. Wow. Come on now, we're going to have some fun, huh? We're going to learn a little bit. Yeah. I am so glad that you're here, and just welcome. And not only here in our local site here in Atlanta, but we are on 300 sites in 30 countries. In fact, let me tell you a story. I'm in my middle 20s, and I'm doing pretty good. I started off as a pastor, and I'm doing pretty good. And my church is really growing, and so I was invited to an event called Idea Exchange. And Idea Exchange was where pastors of large churches in America were coming together, and they were just doing questions, and they were talking about their experiences and their successes. And I'm the youngest kid by far. Most of them are in their 40s. I'm 25, 26 at that time. And I'm invited, and I'm way over my head, and I'm in tall timber, and I feel intimidated. And I went there, and there were a lot of questions I wanted to ask. And after this event was over, I got in my car, and I was very discouraged because guess what? I didn't ask one question. And I didn't ask one question because I looked at all of them, and I saw they were so much better and faster and more experienced and more successful. And I looked at myself, and I said, I'm not in their league. And so I kept quiet. And then all of a sudden, I was going home. I realized something. I had cheated myself. And here's what I want you to understand. When you want to look good and are afraid to ask a question, the only person that lost was you. You cheated yourself. And that day, I learned something. I said, I'm never going to go back to any event, at any time, at any place, with anyone, and not ask the questions that I really want to ask. And I could list for the next 15 minutes times when I boldly asked a question, got the courage, and got the answer. And it totally changed my life. What am I saying to you? I'm saying to every one of you listening here and all of you on the simulcast, here's what I'm saying. You are perhaps one question away from an answer that you need that's going to literally make a difference in your life. So would you look at your neighbor and say to them, you're one question away. Go ahead and tell them that. Oh, that was fun, wasn't it? Now, wait, hold on. That was so much fun. You and I both know that the person you're sitting beside, they may be 3 or 4 questions away. so look at them and just say, you are one or several questions away. There's a bunch of them out there. I'm not sure how many, but there's a bunch of them. But there are some questions, and you're not too far away if you keep asking questions, okay? The second value of questions is questions are the most effective way to connect with people. That's a fact. The most effective way to connect with anyone is to ask them questions. You see, the highest compliment that you could ever give a person is to ask for advice. When I ask you for advice, I'm saying I respect how you think. I'm respecting your experience. There's something that you know that I don't know. There's something you can teach me that I need to learn. There's not a higher compliment than to ask questions. And what questions do is questions get us on common ground. I wrote a book several years ago called Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And one of the principles in that book was that if you really want to connect with people, you've got to find common ground. And the greatest way to find common ground is to ask questions. And I purposely ask questions to find common ground. I purposely ask people for directions. Have you ever, when you ask somebody for directions, have you ever thought, I don't care what they're doing, you ask somebody for directions, they'll stop anything and everything, will they not? I mean, they'll sit there and they will give you their full attention, and they'll say, now do you have it? You can't miss it, but let me give it to you again. And I've had people get in cars. I've had people before GPS and all the wonderful things we have now. I've had people get in cars and drive me to the place. I mean, 3 or 4 months, drive me to the place just to make sure that I got to the right place because I asked the question. And I can promise you, when you ask questions to people, what happens more than anything else is you get on common ground. Oh, I wish you could have been with us last night. I had Linda and Tim and some of my key inner circle with me. And we sat around the table, and I love times for dinner because there are 2 great meals at a dinner. There's the food that you eat, and then there's the conversation that you engage in. And the food is sometimes okay. But if the right question is asked, the conversation is always off the chart. And so we're sitting there, and we've ordered our food, and I said, okay, let me ask you a question. We'll go around the table. What's the best advice you ever received in your life? And they began talking about the best advice they ever received. And I'm over there with my iPhone, and I'm taking notes, and I'm putting thoughts and quotes away, and I'm listening to them. We went around. I mean, they told beautiful stories, warm stories, life-changing stories, best advice you ever received. And then I turned around, and as soon as they got clear around there, and they kind of, whoa, wasn't that beautiful? I looked at them, and I said, let me ask you another question. If you could only give one word of advice, only one, what advice would you give to people? And we went around the table again. You see, I love dinner. It's obvious I love dinner. Look at me. I love dinner. But what I really love is dinner conversation.